In my past life, I was the youngest star surgeon in Seattle. I had everything, until I made the mistake of trying to save my fiancé from her male bestie. When he was diagnosed with a deadly, contagious illness, I warned her out of love. In return, she branded me a quack, destroyed my career through a massive smear campaign, and eventually, the two of them set my house on fire. I died screaming in the flames while they watched and laughed. Now, I have opened my eyes to find myself back in the ER on the day that man was admitted. Looking at the positive medical report in my hand and my fiancé's demanding face, I smile. This time, I will respect their pure friendship and stay perfectly silent. Let them have each other, and everything that comes with it. The Seattle rain never seemed to stop. I stood in the emergency room of Swedish Medical Center, clutching a lab report. The edges of the paper were cold and damp, just like my heart. "What's wrong with Jace? Say something, Silas." Brianna's voice exploded in my ear. She was wearing expensive Lululemon yoga gear. Her hair was a mess, and her eyes were red from crying. She shoved my shoulder hard. I looked up from the report and stared at her face. This face was once the most beautiful thing in my life, but in my deepest memories, the last time I saw it, it was twisted in a demonic grin as I burned to ash. "Silas Thorne, are you deaf?" Brianna screamed again. I took a deep breath of the air that smelled like bleach and medicine. I knew then I had been reborn. I was back to the afternoon before everything went to hell. Brianna's best friend, Jace Sterling, had been brought into the ER after a car accident. As his attending physician, I hadn't just treated his scratches. I had discovered a terrifying secret. He was HIV positive, and the virus was already active. In my last life, I told Brianna because I loved her and worried for her safety. The result? She slapped me in front of everyone. She called me a jealous creep for slandering her best friend. She used her family's influence in Seattle to end my career forever. "Speak! He was just in a car crash. Why are you running all these extra tests?" Brianna glared at the report in my hand, her eyes full of suspicion. "Are you just looking for an excuse to keep me away from him?" I looked at her, feeling absolutely nothing. Their pure friendship meant they were inseparable. Even though we were engaged, she would spend late nights at Jace's apartment, helping him mix cocktails. "He's fine, Brianna," I said calmly, flipping the report over. "Just some superficial wounds. No internal bleeding or brain damage. He just needs to stay in the ward for a few days for observation." Brianna frowned, trying to snatch the report from my hand. I stepped aside and slid the paper into the shredder. "This is patient privacy. By law, I cannot show it to you." "Even though I'm your fiancé?" She scoffed. "Even if you were his mother. It's HIPAA, honey." My tone was professional and empty. Brianna blinked. The old Silas would have spent an hour apologizing and comforting her, but the new Silas only wanted to get away from this mess. "Fine, as long as he's okay." She turned and ran toward the observation room. I watched her eager back, a cold smile touching my lips. "Since you love him so much, go ahead and experience everything he has to offer." My colleague, Dr. Miller, walked over. He looked at Brianna, and then at me. "Thorne, didn't you tell your girlfriend about Jace's status?" He lowered his voice, sounding worried. "He's positive, and his CD4 count is dangerously low." "Is she his legal next of kin?" I asked without expression. Miller shook his head. "No, just a friend." "Then the law says I cannot disclose his infectious status to her," I answered robotically. Miller looked surprised. "But she's your fiancée." "She won't be for long," I said, turning toward the locker room. Back in my office, I opened my personal laptop. I started drafting my resignation letter. At the same time, I contacted a real estate agent. I didn't want to spend another day in my East Side villa overlooking Lake Washington. I had worked so hard to buy that house. In my past life, it became my tomb. Brianna and Jace poured gasoline all over my living room because I interfered. "Hey Silas, are you coming to the pizza party tonight?" Lucy, a nurse, poked her head in. "Not tonight, Lucy. I have some personal business to handle." I closed my laptop and grabbed my coat. Brianna sent me a text. "Order some chicken soup from Din Tai Fung for Jace. He's hungry. Also, pay his medical bill. You know Jace is short on cash lately." I sneered at the screen. Jace called himself an artist, but he was just a broke playboy. His lifestyle, his rent, and even the money he spent on other women mostly came from me. Brianna used to tell me, "He's my most important friend. Taking care of him is taking care of me." I blocked her number immediately. As for the medical bill, the hospital would find its own way to collect from him legally. It had nothing to do with me anymore. I walked out of the hospital into the Seattle drizzle. I felt truly free. I called my lawyer. "I want to cancel the prenuptial agreement and the engagement with Brianna Sinclair. Yes, all of it." Brianna's mother, Mrs. Sinclair, stormed into my office the next afternoon. She was dressed in an expensive Chanel suit, radiating the arrogance of the upper class. "Silas, what is wrong with you? Brianna says you blocked her." I sat behind my desk, busy with patient records. "Mrs. Sinclair, we broke up. It's normal to block an ex, isn't it?" I didn't even look up. "Broke up? Just because she spent one day taking care of Jace?" Mrs. Sinclair slammed her Hermes bag onto my desk. "You are being petty, Silas. Jace is part of the family. You have to accept him." "I can't," I said, looking her in the eye. "I think Jace and Brianna are a match made in heaven. I decided to step aside so they can be together." My tone was sincere, almost as if I were giving them a blessing. Mrs. Sinclair looked at me as if I were a monster. "You're crazy. You know Jace can't provide for her. That sounds like their problem, doesn't it? You're backing out now? Brianna has already sent out the wedding invitations." Her voice turned sharp. "That's her problem. My name wasn't the only one that could fit on the card." I pointed toward the door. "Now please leave. I have patience." She was shaking with rage. "You'll regret this, Silas. Nobody humiliates the Sinclair family in Seattle." I smiled. "We'll see about that, ma'am." I knew exactly what Brianna would do next. She would do what she did in my past life, post my crimes on social media. She would call me heartless and cruel. But this time, I wasn't going to just sit there and take it. Sure enough, that night, I saw Brianna's video on TikTok. She was sitting by Jace's bed, crying like her world had ended. I never thought the man I loved would abandon me just because I cared for a sick friend. The caption was, #heartlessdoctor, #betrayed fiancé, #friendship first. The video went viral quickly. The comments were full of hate directed at me. Does this doctor even have a soul? Why is Swedish Medical Center still employing this trash? Dox him! Kick him out of the medical community! I scrolled through the comments calmly. It was strange to watch the same script play out again. But this time, I was the director, not the victim. Jace gave a pale, innocent smile in the background of the video. He looked so weak, so in need of protection. Brianna held his hand and kissed his fingertips tenderly. I almost laughed. Brianna, I hope that kiss gives you exactly what you deserve. The next day, I went to work as usual. A group of protesters had gathered at the hospital entrance. They held signs that said, "Fire Silas Thorne." Security had to escort me into the building. In the director's office, the tension was thick. Dr. Thorne, even though this is a private matter, it's hurting the hospital's reputation. The director, a balding British man, paced back and forth. I understand, director, but I have some evidence you might want to see. I pushed a thumb drive across his desk. It contained the surveillance footage from my office, showing Mrs. Sinclair's tantrum. It also showed Jace trying to tamper with his own IV to frame me for medical neglect. This isn't enough, Silas. The director sighed. Public opinion doesn't care about evidence. They care about who looks like the victim. Don't worry, director. I'll handle everything. I gave a confident smile. As I left the office, I ran into Brianna. She was with a few minor influencers who were live streaming. That's him! The hypocrite! She pointed at me, screaming into the cameras. Silas, are you happy now? Seeing Jace suffer? Seeing my reputation ruined? She rushed at me, raising her hand to slap me. I caught her wrist firmly. She shrieked in pain. Brianna, this is a hospital, not your TikTok studio. I looked into the lenses of the phones. If you harass a doctor here again, I will file a restraining order immediately. You'll never step foot in this building again. You wouldn't dare! She snarled, her eyes full of venom. Try me. I let go of her hand and wiped mine with a handkerchief. Then, I gave the cameras a mysterious smile. Brianna, I wish you and Jace a happy wedding. After all, some secrets are only meant to be shared after marriage.